Why you do this? Understand yourself. You don't have trust issues. You have self-trust issues. And that changes everything, because it means the problem was never really them. It was the way you relate to yourself inside relationships. You say you struggle to trust people, but that's not fully true. You actually trust people more than you admit. You trust them to disappoint you. You trust them to leave. You trust them to change. You trust them to hurt you eventually. So what do? You stay guarded. You analyze everything. You try to predict their behavior. You try to stay one step ahead. But underneath all of that, there's something deeper. You don't trust yourself to handle what happens if you're wrong. You don't trust yourself to walk away when needed. And by the end of this, you're going to see exactly why your relationships feel stuck, and how to finally change the way you show up in them. You've probably said it before. I just have trust issues. It sounds clean. It sounds simple. It sounds like the explanation. But it never really feels complete. Because even when someone shows up consistently, you still hesitate. Even when they are honest, you still question it. Even when things feel good, something in you stays alert. You notice small changes, tone shifts, delayed replies, subtle distance, and your mind starts working. What does that mean? Are they pulling away? Did something change? Are they losing interest? You don't relax into connection. You monitor it, and that constant awareness feels exhausting. What you call trust issues is actually control. You are trying to control uncertainty. Because uncertainty feels dangerous, so you scan for signals. You analyze behavior. You look for patterns. You try to figure them out before they reveal themselves. Because if you can understand them, you can protect yourself. That's the belief. But here's what's really happening. You're not building trust. You're building surveillance. You're staying in your head instead of your experience. You're trying to outthink vulnerability. But connection doesn't work like that. The more you try to control it, the less safe it actually feels. Because you're never fully in it. You're always slightly outside, watching, analyzing, preparing. The moment someone starts to matter, something shifts. It's subtle at first, then it builds. You start caring more, you start investing emotionally, and suddenly, there's something to lose. That's when the tension begins. Not because they change, but because your emotional exposure increased. Now their actions feel heavier. Now their words matter more. Now their absence feels louder. And your system reacts. You don't say it out loud, but internally there's a question. What if I get attached and they leave? What if I trust this and it breaks? What if I open up and regret it? That fear doesn't scream, it whispers, and it changes how you show up. Your nervous system reads connection as risk, especially when it feels real. Because real connection means vulnerability, and vulnerability means uncertainty. Your body does not like uncertainty. It prefers predictability. So when things start getting deeper, your system activates. You feel it as tension, as alertness, as subtle anxiety, and your mind tries to make sense of it. It tells you something must be wrong. It tells you to look closer, to pay attention, to stay careful. But what you're actually feeling is not danger. It's emotional exposure. Your body is reacting to being seen. And that's something you've learned to associate with risk. So you move into logic. You start analyzing everything. Their words, their behavior, their patterns. You replay conversations. You read between lines that might not even exist. You try to figure out what they really mean. Because if you can understand it fully, you can feel safe. But the more you analyze, the less clarity you feel. Now everything is a signal. Everything is a possibility. Everything could mean something. And that creates overwhelm. You lose your natural sense of connection. You lose your ability to just be in the moment. Because your attention is split. Part of you is in the relationship, and part of you is constantly evaluating it. From your perspective, they become the variable. You watch them closely. You notice inconsistencies. You question their intentions. You look for red flags. You try to understand who they really are. Because if you can figure them out, you can decide if they're safe. But here's what's happening underneath. You're placing all the responsibility on them. They need to prove themselves. They need to be consistent. They need to reassure you. They need to not trigger your fears. And when they don't meet that standard, you pull back. You question everything. You create distance. But no matter who they are, the same pattern follows. Different person, same tension. Now shift the focus. Because this is where it gets uncomfortable. It's not just about them. It's about you inside the situation. You don't trust yourself to choose the right person. You don't trust yourself to see red flags early. You don't trust yourself to leave when something feels off. You don't trust yourself to handle heartbreak if it happens. So you try to prevent it instead. You try to control it before it unfolds. Because deep down, you feel like if it goes wrong, it means something about you. It means you were wrong. It means you misjudged. It means you failed, and that's what you're actually avoiding. So the dynamic becomes predictable. You want closeness, but you fear what comes with it. So you lean in, and then pull back. You open up, and then close off. You get closer, and then start questioning everything. And the other person feels it. They feel the inconsistency, the distance, the hesitation, and they react to it. Sometimes they pull away, sometimes they get confused, sometimes they try harder, but the connection becomes unstable. Not because they are unreliable, but because the dynamic itself is unstable, driven by your internal push and pull. This didn't start in your current relationship. It started earlier, at a time when trust felt unsafe. Maybe someone disappointed you, maybe someone left, maybe someone changed, maybe you opened up and it didn't end well. And your system learned something. Trust leads to pain, so it adapted. It became more careful, more observant, more protective, and that helped you survive emotionally. But now, that same protection is limiting your ability to connect. Because you're still operating from old experiences, even when the situation is different. Over time, this became part of how you see yourself. You are the careful one, the one who doesn't get played, the one who sees things early, the one who doesn't trust easily. And that feels like strength. It feels like control. It feels like intelligence, but it also keeps you guarded. Because now letting someone in feels like losing that control. It feels like risking your identity. So you hold back, not because you don't want connection, but because connection challenges who you believe you need to be. Here's the shift that changes everything. You don't need to trust them fully. You need to trust yourself. To handle whatever happens, to set boundaries, to speak up, to walk away if needed, to recover if it ends. Because when you trust yourself, everything changes. You don't need to control them. You don't need constant reassurance. You don't need to overanalyze every detail. Because you know you'll be okay either way. That's real safety, not controlling the outcome, but trusting yourself inside it. Start noticing when your focus shifts outward, when you start analyzing them instead of checking in with yourself. Pause in that moment, bring your attention back, ask yourself a different question. Not, can I trust them? But, do I trust myself here? Do I trust my ability to notice what feels right or wrong? Do I trust my ability to respond if something changes? Do I trust my ability to leave if I need to? That question shifts everything, because it puts the power back with you, and you start relating differently. The next step is subtle but powerful. When you feel the urge to control, do less. Not nothing, but less. Stop overanalyzing every detail. Stop reading into every small change. Let some uncertainty exist. Stay present instead of jumping ahead. Feel what is actually happening, not what could happen. This builds tolerance for uncertainty. And that is what you've been avoiding. Because the more you can sit in uncertainty, the less you need control. And the more natural connection becomes. The real solution is this. Shift from outcome control to self-trust. Instead of trying to guarantee they won't hurt you, build confidence that you can handle it if they do. That's the difference. Start defining your non-negotiables clearly. Know what behavior you will not tolerate. Know what you need to feel respected. And more importantly, commit to acting on it. Not just noticing it, but acting on it. Because self-trust is built through action, not thought. Every time you ignore your own boundary, you weaken it. Every time you honor it, you strengthen it. That's how you create safety. Not by controlling them, but by showing yourself that you will not abandon you. You never had trust issues in the way you thought. You were never just bad at trusting people. You were careful for a reason. You were observant for a reason. You were protective for a reason. And that says something about your awareness. It says something about your depth. But now you see the full picture. The problem was never just them. It was how much you trusted yourself inside the connection. Because when you trust yourself, you don't need guarantees. You don't need perfect certainty. You don't need to control every outcome. You can show up fully, and respond honestly, and walk away if needed. That's real power. That's real safety. So here's the question that actually matters. When the next connection feels real, will you focus on proving them safe, or will you finally trust that you are?